Hello everybody, this is Money Mom. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about, can we live off one income in 2022? Let's get started and talk about it. You know, that is a topic I used to see on YouTube. When I first started watching YouTube, I saw tons of videos. You don't see them as much now. You know, paying off debt on one small income. You don't see that anymore like I used to. And that's what I wanted to ask you guys, and I'm going to share with you some of my views from my own life experiences. I know everybody's experience is different depending where you grew up and all of that. That being said, what do I think about in 2022? We all know that inflation, or the wages, have not kept up with inflation. We've read and heard that for a while, especially with the cost of, you know, housing and gas and medical and all that. Many of us would agree on that. Now, in 1970, you guys know I was born in 65, March of 65. 1970, the average income was $9,870. Supposedly now, and I was surprised it was this high, median family income now is a little over $79,000. Now, ours is less than $40,000, but I'm taking into account when they say that, they're talking the entire United States, and you're talking like some of the West Coast, East Coast, where the costs are more than they would be in Texas. So, you know, do I think people could live off one income? I'm going to get to the answer of what I really think on the end, but I'm going to share with you why I think that maybe people would struggle with that now and what it was like with me growing up. Okay, my dad started working at age 22. He got married in 1960. He was 22 years old. He worked for a little over 35 years. He retired as a Teamster. You guys know he was, you know, union. He was a truck driver, a semi-truck driver. He worked for like 35, 36 years. He retired with the full pension. He did the same job for like 35, 36 years. And then I think he went back and did some little, you know, substitute runs and things like that afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. That being said, it was a lot easier back in the 1970s. You guys know I grew up in the Twin Cities, Woodbury, Minnesota, if any of you know it. And my dad had full pension and full benefits, dental, vision, health care, life insurance, all of that kind of stuff, which really helped. And he was paid fairly. I remember in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, the late 70s, I think he was making like $38,000, which is pretty good for the late 70s. So we could live a pretty comfortable lifestyle. He also had the same job, so my mother was able to stay home and take care of the home. Now, my dad still helped when he got home, but that made a big difference. At the beginning, we had a small house. Now, back in Minnesota, and I missed these, we had a basement. I really miss having a basement, that's for sure. I know if I had one, you might say, Dawn, you just put more stuff in it. But it is nice kind of having a basement, to have your laundry room and things downstairs. I do miss that because in Texas or Dallas, you don't have that. Okay, but we had a small house. It was a little rambler, and it was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. My dad did put a bathroom in downstairs later on and fix up the basement. And then eventually we did move. Okay, we only had the one car, and we had the one home. And we also obviously didn't have cable TV or cell phones. And that was back in the day with the phone. If somebody tried to call you, you were on the phone, you get the busy signal, right? You remember the party lines too? That was always kind of fun. We bought clothes a few times a year. We only bought gifts a few times a year. Everything was made to feel special, you know, and we paid cash for everything. We also maintained everything that we had, and neighbors helped each other. So my dad, they'd call him over and say, hey, Richard, can you come on over here and help me with my car? Yeah, let me get my tools. And, you know, my dad might call somebody over, hey, I don't even know what it would be, but I need help with something over here. They'd come over and help. So people would help each other. If somebody had a doctor appointment, mom would babysit their kids, you know, things like that. So everybody kind of helped each other. You know, somebody grew out of their clothes, they'd give it to their neighbor's clothes. Like my little boy, Billy, you know, grew out of his, you know, shorts, and they're still in good condition. You know, can your son Johnny take them? Hey, that's great. So that saved a lot of money, all the neighbors kind of working together. But we just didn't spend as much. That's true. But the income was really a good, healthy income, and we had all those benefits that we had. And so we could live a comfortable lifestyle. I still thought my parents were fairly frugal in many ways, but we could live that comfortable, wonderful lifestyle. And so what do I think has happened now? Well, they say now over 50% of the households, 55%, are dual income. And I think it depends. Could people live nowadays off dual income? Well, there's one huge difference. Back in the day, growing up in the 70s, and even into the 80s, you know, a lot of these guys in our neighborhood, they worked at the same place. Like we had 3Mers in our neighborhood, Anderson Windows. You know, we had people working, you know, some people school district, you know, Ham's Brewery. We had different, you know, places, people doing that. And they would work at the same place for, you know, 38, 40 years, you know, anywhere from 35 to 40 years. And they would be at that same place. My dad, as you guys know, was a truck driver. He used to go to semi-truck rodeos. It was kind of fun. My dad would take a semi and drive in and out of the cones. My dad was a really good driver. He still, to this day, he's 84, is an excellent driver. He's never gotten into one accident in his entire life, and he's 84. And as a semi-truck driver, he never once got into an accident. They really depended on my dad. And if you can imagine, I grew up in Minnesota. You know what the weather, many of you will know what those icy road conditions are. And that's the only thing that stressed my dad out, was driving in really bad icy road conditions, okay? Because they still needed their stuff. They didn't call off, you know, like, oh, don't worry, the roads are bad, stay home. That wasn't the case in Minnesota. So he'd take the truck from the Twin Cities and drive to Chicago. I used to go on a few trips with him every now and then, which was kind of fun. And, you know, it was a lot. It was wonderful, but he was a very safe driver, and he did a phenomenal job with that. But he was at the same job. They rewarded him for a job well done. Well, they say now the average person changes their job every 4.5 years. The average adult has 12 careers or jobs in their lifetime. And so I do think because of that, it could be more challenging to live off one income. Could it be done? Yes, depending on where you live, what your income is, what your expenses are, and how easy it was to get a job. Do you have side hustles, or does the other person in the house have side things that they can do? Because with not having job security, like we did back, you know, growing up, I think that could be a challenge. Also, many folks may not have the benefits. You know, there isn't the pensions a lot of people have anymore. You don't a lot of times have the decent health insurance. I don't remember us paying anything out of pocket, or dental insurance, vision, so a lot of times you got to pay that. Also, back then, you could get affordable housing pretty easily, and so things were a lot more affordable back then. You could pay, you know, cash for a car, you know, your house payment wasn't that high, things like that. So I do think people could live off one income if, number one, you've got a job where it'd be easy to find another job, you know, so something that where you have some kind of job security, and you're making a healthy income, and you have some kind of benefits. But if you're really low income, and you don't have, you know, any type of benefits, and you don't have money left over to save or invest each month, I think it could be tough. So that if you lose your job, you don't have 6 months of income to live off. And that being said, I've known several people that have lost their job, and it took them, say, another 6 or 7 months or so, even 9 months to get a job. The thing is, they made decent money, and they had all that money in savings. They could work part-time and live off that until they got a new job. So I do think nowadays, even if you were super frugal, I think it is tougher to live off the one income, because we've got those other things working against us. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be honest, my dad thinks the 1950s were the good old days. Of course, I don't know about that. I love the poodle skirts and all the fun music. But for me, the 1970s were the good old days, or especially the early 70s, because I really remember that life was really good back then. And just, you know, neighbors and families all worked together, and we could live a comfortable, you know, frugal life, but we had everything that we needed, and moms were able to stay home, and it was just a really wonderful lifestyle. Let me know what you think. Do you think in 2022 it's possible for people to live off one income? I'd like to hear from you in the comments below. That's all I have to say for now. I love you, I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.